My name is John Fletcher. I live in London, and I am a multi-skilled personnel. I work in the building trade, basically. I've lived in London. I've lived in other parts of this country. I've lived overseas. I've done a lot of traveling through my work and through holidays. I don't go back as much as I used to back to Jamaica because, you know, there's other places to go and other things to see. I'm a father of 5 children. I love this country. I love what it stands for, even though certain aspects of it I think is eroding. I think it's still one of the safest places in the world to bring up your children. What else can I say? I think I'll stop there.
Why do mixed race people identify as black?
If you must remember, you know, if you're of mixed race heritage and you grew up in a black society, you're going to identify as black. If you grew up in a British society where the white side of the family tell you you're black, then you will believe that. But I've come across mixed race people from Sweden, and they're not brought up that way. They're brought up very much on individualism, and they're very proud of their mixed heritage. This is depending on the lack of understanding on the parents' part, because you must remember, you know, if you're a white parent or a black parent, you can't think in the world of a mixed race child. You can only give them your own perspective. It's only if you take the time to really think about it seriously and understand that your child is of mixed heritage and not try to deny them who they are and think outside the box to really understand, then that child will grow up thinking they're either, when you should really explain to that child that they're neither or neither, they're both. And that is what caused the confusion and misunderstanding. And this goes back to me of my life, because all my children will always be of mixed race, because I am mixed race. So my children with white women are mixed race. My children with black women are mixed race. My children with women from different parts of the world, there will always be mixed race. So me as a father have to understand this, to enlighten my children and educate my children, because one thing I don't want my children growing up to be confused about who they are. And I bring them up on the principle of identity, of their personal identity, who they are as an individual, that they're a God-blessed creature, and they're unique. Just like the fingerprints, they are unique.
And you know what? You're very lucky that you can do that, because you have an experience of your own. But if you're a white parent and you're a black parent, you're not really going to know what that mixed race child's experiencing. Exactly. So, and that's why I find myself in a unique position, because obviously what I went through, and I've always been seen as, you know, I would have to say I'm black, but I'm also mixed race.
Exactly, you are.
And so I've been privy to all sides of it, but I've never been really. I would have to say that I'm more safer in saying I'm mixed race than I would be saying I'm black.
Exactly.
You know,
because no one can question it.
Yeah, they can't. You know, exactly. They would always say, "Yeah, you're not black," whatever. So I said that. But anyway, there was something on TikTok I was watching. You know, because I do a lot of scrolling through stuff, seeing what's going on, see what the conversations are out there. And there was a girl who was having this conversation about her race, about who she was, and I mentioned her earlier. And the comments were very clear. Everyone was saying, you cannot be white. You know, she was saying, I'm mixed race. And they were saying, well, you're not, you're black. And there was the whole point of this whole thing about the one-drop rule in America, where you can't, even if you wanted to say you're white, you can't be. And there's no real kind of understanding of mixed raceness in America. It's just, you know, your one-drop rule's there. Whereas in the UK, I think there is the understanding that there is a thing called the mixed race. There's a thing called biracialism or whatever. So, you know, they should be able to say they're mixed race. But people, I think there's an undercurrent who are saying you cannot say that. You are black. Do you feel that at all?
No, I don't.
But no, so you think everyone says no one calls you black?
Unique personally, I wouldn't say I got the thickest skin in the world, and I wouldn't think I'm superior to no one. I am unique who I am, and I can prove that I am partially black and partially white.
But do people say you're black? I'm sorry to say, people say you're black, man.
Well, yes,
Okay,
and
interesting.
it is a way. And put it this way: it's like, so if you come and you say you're a singer, yeah, and you're a performer, and someone comes to you and goes, "Well,
I've
yeah,
sung.
yeah, oh, you're not the best guitar, but you're second best, and you know you are the best." And this is an example, yeah. People will always come and try to tell you what they perceive you are, and you must accept their ideology on who you are. Who are they to tell me who I am? I don't care what they think about me. What do I care? And that's the first thing you got to learn being a mixed race person. Stop thinking what people think of you. You are who you are. No one can come and tell you who you are. Who knows what my DNA makeup is? When I did this DNA test, ancestry, if I found out that I got I'm descended from 3 tribes in Africa, 3 different races of people in Africa, and 2 different groups of European. So who am I then? And I'm sure if you take every single individual in this world and did a DNA test on them, yeah, they're made up of people from different walks of life and different races of people. So the person who's going to come and tell me who I am, I ain't got no time for that to listen to them. I got better things to do with my life, to get on with my life.
Brilliant, thank you for that. But there are people out there who kind of propagate this in the black community, especially in America, in fact, who propagate the mixing of blood as a very negative thing. I'm not going to mention names.
All right, you want me to shut down the argument for you? Somebody else would have that as well, and they call Hitler.
Let's leave it there. Yeah, so leave it there for the listeners, to make of that as they will. All right, so politicians use crime as a weapon to gain votes. Do you feel this is a true statement?
Politicians only care about crime when election is coming up, yeah? And they only care about people. This is the oldest story in politics. Politicians only care about you when it's time for election. The rest of the time, they're lying in their pockets, their friends and their family's pockets, and creaming it off and making your life hell. Yeah. So I don't even want to engage in politics because I think it's the biggest criminality ever invented. We're supposed to live in this country, in a democratic country, yeah, where we vote people in. And we give them the job, and then they go into power, and all they spend their time doing is making our life more difficult, more harder, and then they forget about us for 5 years, and when they want their job back again, they come around and ask us to vote them back in again. You tell me that ain't a con.
Oh, gosh. When you roll it up like that and ask me to smoke it, I really can't smoke it. Wow. All right. This is another one. This is a game we've had to cover this subject so far. Do you experience racism?
Most definitely. All right. I was born in the early 60s, yeah, up at Sheffield. My dad came to this country and studied engineering, and when he graduated from university, he went back to Jamaica because with his qualification in engineering, he didn't stand a chance in hell back then to get a job in this country. So he went back to Jamaica and worked at a bauxite plant. And I have a supervisor who is white. And the man has no skills. Yeah, he has no skills, and he got, through nepotism, he got made a supervisor. He came in as a carpenter, and then he got made as a supervisor through nepotism because his brother-in-law was his boss. And for the past 3 years, I've been experiencing racism. I'm going to tell you what racism included: gaslighting, kidnapping, the obvious racial comment, because one of my sons go to a private school and we were talking about football, and the striker son go to the school, and I was saying, yeah, he drives some nice car, and he turned to me and he goes, well, which school do your son go to? And I said, and then I walked, and the way he said it, the manner in which he said it was derogative. So I then walked off, and then he turned to a colleague who was standing there, who is white, and said to him, anyway, he thinks he's better than me because his son go to a private school. He's not cut from the same cloth as us, is he? What he didn't know was that the white man is married to a Jamaican lady. Well, her parents are Jamaican. And he came back and told me. And for the past 3 years, I have been subjected to non-stop racism and refused to accept the fact that he's racist. And purely because, and all the things that he's done to me, purely because he hasn't come up to me and said the N-word or say something directly, racially derogative to me in my face. But his prolonged action over 3 years, all the horrible things he's done to me, which is against company policy, yeah, they refuse to uphold it. And that is institutional racism happening to me in 2024. Racism is alive and kicking. Institutional racism, the glass ceiling, the whole ignorance behind it from an individual. But what happened? A corporation will cover it up because they don't want to be seen to be racist.
Wow, incredible. Wow, and people would literally be aghast right now thinking, wow, we assume that you would never experience it. People imagine that if you're light to skin, the whole kind of colorism thing and the caste system, you are going to have opportunities, great opportunities, and you're going to have an easy life. You just gone and just basically detailed that that's not the case. You were still subjected to the types of racism that anyone of whatever shade of colour you are experiences too.
Well, may I quickly say something though? Racism is ignorance. Yeah. If I was tall and white, he would have still hate me because of who I am as an individual. I'm a skilled person. I can articulate myself. I carry myself nice. I look after myself. My children go to good school. He don't have the same for himself. So that's his way of making himself feel better by putting me down to say he's better than me. And that's what racism is. Putting the next man down to make them feel better about themselves.
But it wouldn't be racism if you had an issue with a white person.
No, but I'm just saying that it would have been something else. But because of the colour of my skin, that's what he picked on.
Yeah, that's just him being prejudiced. Because
That is prejudice, but prejudice come out in terms of racism. Okay. So it's always easy to pick on people like myself.
So that's this is a personality thing in his case. But you would describe it as racism directly.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Wonderful.
Purely because he made a comment.
Sorry, I shouldn't say wonderful. That's not something I should be saying.
No.
Following with that, but thank you for sharing it with us. And obviously, anyone listening to this, you get a clear idea that it affects all affected, regardless of what shade we are. And you mentioned we talked before about something like this, and you mentioned about our Irish people get a form of racism still. Irish people, Scottish people, it's still a form of racism. It doesn't matter the colour of the skin, different race, apparently, considered.
If you're different, people single you out.
That's right.
People always single you out if you're different. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're the minority somewhere, you will be subjected to this kind of behaviour from people. People are bullies. It's human nature.
Thank you. Okay, I know what it's like to be around people who absolutely don't get racism or colorism and have no sympathy for it. But if you're in a place where you're not understood, it makes you vulnerable to those that want to exploit you. As a result of that, I believe that mixed and biracial people are more at risk of crime than any other group. Is that a believable statement?
Yes. Because if you were to take a trip around the world, you'd be more, if you were, say, white, and you travel through Europe, you wouldn't stand out, so you'd be less risk of being spotted as being someone different, to be subjected to any form of robbery, abuse, or anything. Yeah? And as you would travel around the world, you would fit in somewhere. Being of mixed race heritage, you ain't going to fit in nowhere, so you're constantly going to be a target. People
can, they know that they view you as being the odd one out, so therefore they assume that they can take advantage of you because you're the odd one out.
Exactly.
You're in their mind, the weakest link.
Yeah. You wouldn't go, for example, like, I would be more crude. You wouldn't go down to Brixton and screw around with some black guy, because you never know. You might around the corner, might be half a dozen black guy. You wouldn't go and screw around with a white guy, because you never know. Around the corner is half a dozen white guy. But you can see a mixed race guy, the chances of half a dozen mixed race guy around the corner is very unlikely.
Oh, wow, well put. And I'm glad you understand the question. Because that's pretty much, it was just me trying to, and I didn't know whether or not how you'd answer the question, but I framed the question because to me it was about, look, I know what I went through again, and this is hence why I'm having this conversation with you, because I think there's not enough being done, not enough to recognise it, to protect, in terms of looking out for mixed race children. I think that we're neglected. I think the mixed race kids are. They look at the majority, and the majority are black, that they really need to give help to. So they just think, well, he's mixed race, he's fine anyway.
Exactly.
But then those are the ones that always are the fall guys in situations. And if you look in prisons in America, if you're mixed race, I mean, people know the story. You're fodder.
Exactly.
Simple as that. And if you look at the coloureds in South Africa, right now they're subjected to abuse and whatever else. We always, my thing is that and it's not to be negative towards people of colour, dark-skinned people, black people, whatever the hell you want to describe yourself as. The last thing, I'm trying to create some divisive conversation around that. It's about, let's not ignore that there are other people who are suffering too. And sometimes the people who are being helped are the ones subjecting those people to whatever. And we shouldn't ignore it just because it's like, well, we don't want to talk about it now because we're trying to help people of colour, so let's just not look for the baggage. We have to be honest, and they have to be honest. And if they're as loving as they're supposed to be, as we're all, my thing is like, if you've been a slave, you're supposed to understand what it's like to be treated as a slave. So therefore, you shouldn't be treating anybody like a slave.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And again, I have the same approach to black people when we have an issue with people's sexuality. I'm like, people had an issue with us because we were black. Why are we having an issue with anybody because of the sexuality or the colour?
Exactly.
We should be better than that.
Exactly.
That's my view of it.
Exactly.
Because otherwise we become the abusers. Do you understand? And
most definitely.
That's the conversation that I'm trying to clarify.
Because you'd think that after all this time we'd have empathy for other people, but we tend to be like this, yeah. Humans tend to be like this. When they're in a situation and if they're locked in a room and then they're set free, they don't look back. They tend to forget in terms of the past that their foreparents has gone through. For example, if you think about all the black on black crime, yeah, you think of all the years of all the persecution that black people has gone through. You think that the younger generation moving forward would have said, you know what, after everything we went through, we're going to unite, we're going to come together, we're going to be stronger, and we're going to move on because of what happened to our foreparents. Instead, what's happening in a society today? They're just killing each other like for no reason. What's that about? I don't get that.
There is a reason. There's lots of reasons.
I know, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course. And it's
not good reason. It's not good reason.
Because people are playing those kids. There are people who see those kids as money.
Yeah.
They are money, nothing more. And they don't care about your children. And they could be from anywhere around the world, coming here to make money. You can get some, it's like people that come and exploit, how can I put it, immigrants, refugees that come to this country. There are people, there are English people who exploit the refugees that come here.
Oh, yeah.
Working for cheap labour.
Yeah.
There are Indian people, Pakistani people in the communities who hire these people and exploit them for labour. So we just don't see that. But so there are people in the black community who equally are here to exploit those people. That's what they're for. We're going to exploit them as money to be made in the UK. Let's exploit those young kids. And so that's kind of what it is.
You're right, because going back to this, something I discovered recently, they were talking about there was slavery in Britain. And I'm like, what?
What do you mean, the Irish slaves?
No. In modern day Britain, today in Britain, they were talking about slaves in Britain. And I'm thinking, what are they talking about? And it turned out that people were bringing people from Africa and having them working for them as slaves. And I'm thinking, wow. After everything that gone on. But then when you think about it, back in Africa, slavery still exists. But you'd think that would have been something of the past.
Something they'd be ashamed of, you'd think.
No, but some parts
but
of
you
the
would,
world.
you-
No,
but you
no, no.
think-
We in the West are ashamed of it because our foreparents go through. Because the way an African person think about slavery is not how a West Indian think about slavery. You know.
But yeah, but they still know the connotations of it, though. They still know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
slavery is a very cruel thing that should not be enforced on any human being at any point in time ever. Yeah, so the transatlantic slave trade, you think that having, being a part of that, the history, the whole shame. There's a shame on Africa for their part that they played in the slave trade, regardless of whatever. That to be able to allow that trade to exist still in Africa, it's a bit of it's abhorrent. That's from my perspective. People can say they can sugarcoat as what say what they want. Well, it's not the same type of slavery as the one that we had in Europe. It's still slavery. You're still taking your own people, demoralizing them,
Yep.
treating them like animals, and you have the audacity to imagine that a person from another part of the world should treat them with the same respect that you treat them. Don't be ridiculous. If you can do it, they'll do worse.
Exactly.
And that's my view. Anyway, just putting it out there to anyone listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is Jamaicanism?
Ackee and saltfish, stew peas and rice, Duns River Falls, Blue Mountain coffee, reggae music, and a nice swim down a Negril beach. Well, that's in a nutshell the
Beautiful.
things that come off at the top of my head. But
Beautiful.
Jamaicanism is many things, yeah, many things. It's a little of what we Talawa. It's a small island, but we got so much going for us. And going back to what I said earlier, because it's a part of the British Empire, we have so much influence from all over the world in terms of our food, our culture, our music, yeah. But unfortunately, I find in Britain today, Jamaicanism is taking on a very negative connotation where, yeah man, your bomber clot and the attitude and you know what I mean. Once, I've been to places and want people, where you from? You're from Jamaica. And the next question is, you got any weed? I find that really negative, and it's a shame that people take on board the negative stuff from Jamaica and think that everyone from Jamaica smoke weed, or everyone from Jamaica sell weed, or everyone who come from Jamaica cuss bad word, and going on ignorant and
And it's
stupid.
all about sex and everything
And it's
else.
all about sex, and it's all
Jamaica's
it's,
a place, a destination for sex and
It's everything that's
drugs.
negative is to us. I would tell everyone, you know what, take a trip to Jamaica, yeah, and go and meet Jamaicans, and you'll find somewhere that's the most warmest, loving, kindest, most educated, sophisticated people in the world, yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah?
definitely.
And just stop taking on board the negativity.
That's the thing. I take it on board, but what people don't know is that there is a middle class in Jamaica.
Oh yeah.
An
the
upper
society,
class in Jamaica and everything else, and up in and that's but that's the point. What you described was the kind of the street culture, the stuff that is kind of sold to the UK, it was sold around the world.
They
which
market it.
Whatever, dance hall. And I mean, get me wrong, I love dance hall, but there's there's a negative stream to dance hall music and everything else. And so, that's what people see, but they need to go. And it's because, again, the media is not presenting that openly, and people aren't interested in that. Or they just don't, or they close their doors. Maybe the middle class Jamaicans close their doors. I feel that you can send your kids to private school and they can still end up in a life of crime.
Yes, very much so. Because a lot of people tend to believe that, I send my children to private school, everything is going to be all right. No. Being a parent means you have to do your work as a parent. You have to set the ground rules for your children. You have to set the standards and set the bars. There's always saying in Jamaica, the devil find work for idle hands. If you have your children and you're not monitoring your children, see where they are, you're not giving them activities to do and letting them roll around with the wrong type, then you're going to have trouble. Yeah? Not because children are in private school doesn't mean they don't have friends and family who are rolling out on the road with the street boys. Yeah? Children will succumb to peer pressure, and that is why a lot of good children end up getting their lives ruined. As a parent, you have to and must make sure you manage your children's lives and make sure you keep them busy. They don't fall idle, and make sure you supervise them properly. Schools, private education don't save your children. Only you can save your children.
Beautiful. Can you sum up or leave us with some parting words?
I'm very privileged today to be here with this gentleman, to be sharing my opinions and views, yeah? Because this is something I have always wanted to do as a person of mixed heritage, and a unique one at that, because of the way I look, because I inherit my mother's side, yeah? And the fact that I grew up in Jamaica, and I've lived a long life, I've traveled the world, I've done great things with my life. I have lots of experience in life. And if I can do anything, or anyone can take anything from this interview today, especially the youngsters or the parents, that can enlighten them in terms of how to bring up their children and see the light and stop this negativity about whether I'm this or whether I'm that, and just be yourself and find yourself, because inside there is you. And only doing so can make you be strong and move forward in life. God bless.
Thank you so much, John Fletcher. Absolute pleasure. And yeah, really appreciate you being here for us on Class TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.